And then we can get the agenda underway. Members of the public wish, I'll leave that one out. Members of the public are entitled to take photographs, film, audio recording and report on all public meetings in accordance with the openness of local government bodies regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in a way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Emergency evacuation procedure. Turn left, follow the green emergency exit sign to the main town hall entrance and proceed to the assembly point at St George's Square. Any apologies for absence tonight, Angela?
Chair.
Minutes of the 26th of November. Got to follow, but I've got them here. I'll sign them later on. Yeah, have you seen the minutes? Oh, they've been circulated. Oh, that's fine. Any questions on those minutes? Okay. Section 106, Local Government Finance Act. No declarations. Any? Yeah. On section 106. For disclosure of interest.
Thanks, Chair. Based on advice from our learned planning solicitor, though I don't have an interest to declare, I would like to, for transparency, just state that in relation to item 7, the matter on this was originally brought to my attention in my capacity as a ward councillor prior to the submission of the planning application by a local resident. Acting on in that capacity, I referred the matter to planning enforcement, which subsequently led to the submission of the current retrospective application. For the planning reasons that I set out in the call-in form that's in the agenda pack, I requested that the application be referred to this committee in the event that officers were minded to approve it. That would be to give both the applicant and the objector a chance to put their case forward. I've also been in contact with the objectors to explain the planning process and the officer recommendation, but I've not expressed any personal view on the merits of the application. I do not know the applicant. I have had no contact with them, and I have no personal or pecuniary interest in relation to the outcome of this application. I consider the actions that I've taken being those of a ward councillor carrying out their normal duty, and on that basis, I do not believe that there is a declaration of interest that I need to make.
That's fine. Any other declarations of interest? Did you want to say something, Stephen?
I was going to ask about the minutes. You can ask them to be agreed at the end. It's been circulated.
Yeah, it's just about the minutes. They've been circulated, haven't they? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you've all seen them. You agreed? And I'll sign them later on. Okay. Any urgent business? References for committees and other bodies? So we'll go on to the first item on the agenda, 7/24 Eastcott Close. Who's covering that one?
Thank you. So the site compromises a two-story semi-detached dwelling located on Eastcott Close, Luton, with a postcode LU2 9JP, within a residential area of suburban character. The property benefits from a strong driveway and a reasonably sized rear garden. The surrounding area is predominantly residential, with similar semi-detached dwelling and rear garden structures. The site is not within a conservation area, does not affect the setting of a listed building, and lies outside any flood risk zone. The application is a retrospective application for the erection of a single-story rear extension and a chimney flue. The application has been called into committee by Councillor Bridgen for determination. The relevant policies are set out on paragraphs 11 to 14. The original proposal was related only to the chimney, but during a site visit, it was noted that the chimney was an integral part of a rear canopy, which did not benefit from a planning permission. The description of development was amended to include the extension. As you can see from the report, The main concerns relate to the potential impact on the adjoining occupiers in terms of visual intrusion and potential smells and odors from the chimney. An objection was received from number 98 Layerford Road, who sits to the southwest of the site, and their concerns raised are set out in paragraph 19 of the report. During discussion with the applicant, he was made aware of the concerns raised and amended the scheme, reducing the height of the chimney and deleting the extraction fan. The extension sits along the boundary with number 98 Layerford Road, and it's attached to the existing rear projection on the dwelling, resulting in build development for the wall of the northern boundary. However, the limited size and height of the extension have little impact in terms of loss of light and overshadowing to number 25, despite their garden tapering to the rear number 98 Layerford Road. To the rear has a building against the boundary which screens off the part of the extension, and the limited height has no significant impact. It should be noted that if the extension was a detached building, the height would fall within the permitted development limits and not require planning permission. The extension is essentially a canopy structure, and its use of an integral part of the garden area. To ensure an appropriate level of the garden area remain, it is recommended that a condition be added to prevent the extension from being fully enclosed. The chimney sits centrally within the extension, close to the rear elevation, so it's visible from the objector's property. However, as can be seen from the photographs, the impact is minimal in terms of visual intrusion. With respect to smells and odors, the chimney will be for domestic use only, with a wood burner and pizza oven, but this is unlikely to result in any significant impact, and the Council Environmental Protection Officer has not objected to the proposal on that basis. There has been no further objection as a result of the reconsultation process, therefore the revisions have overcome the original concerns. The proposal will result in a reduction of the garden area available for the dwelling, reducing it from 65 square meters to 44.5 square meters. This falls just below the council minimum adopted standards of 45 square meters. However, measurements taken from nearby properties, number 96, 98 Layerford Road, and number 30, 23, 25, and 26 Eastcote Close, indicates that their garden areas are of a similar size to the application site. This demonstrates that the reduced garden area is consistent with the prevailing pattern of the development in the locality and does not result in any material harm to the residential amenity. Although the area is slightly substandard, the extension has already been built, and from an enforcement perspective, it would be not expedient to take actions in this case, and as there is no harm identified, the presumption is in favor of the development. To conclude, the revised scheme overcomes initial concerns regarding the commercial appearance and height of the chimney. Its reduced height is not considered to have any adverse effects on the adjoining occupiers, and the recommendation is to approve, subject to the conditions set out in Appendix 1, together with the suggested additional condition. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll deal with questions afterwards. We've got the applicant is here present.
Ward councillor first, applicant should avoid to apply.
Oh, the objector, yeah, and we've also got councillor Keynes as the objector. So it's the objector first, isn't it? Yeah. So you're ready to start, councillor Keynes, and up to 5 minutes.
I think I've got longer than that. I'm the ward councillor.
Well, did we change the rules?
All right.
5 minutes. Up to 5 minutes, but I could be flexible.
Thank you.
if you don't bore me. What, ready when you are?
It's suppose it's Christmas, isn't it? Yeah. I'm Terry Keynes, the councillor for the Vauxhall Ward. You all know me, obviously, but I'm just telling you, I'm speaking on behalf of the resident of 98 Lalaford. She is unwell to come here, feels that she would be intimidated, which has happened in the past, unfortunately. Page 10 of your report, paragraph 23, lays down her objections. These have not changed. The development is a very large brick building with a chimney. This was built by outside labour, and I wonder if it actually conforms with British building regulations. The building is so close to 98 boundary that it destroyed the lady's fence. She has not been able to complete the fence as she cannot put any support posts in due to the nearness of this building. You can also see, and you've seen that from your visual, that it's not very well built. There is a large overhanging tree over the construction, and the fire brigade have actually been up there and have supplied fire alarms for 98 for her outbuildings, as they feel that it could, when the chimney starts, could be a source of a fire. I'm really surprised that there is no fire report in the report from the brigade. The size of the building is amazing. It is virtually a large living room. It has 3 ovens. Why so many for a standard barbecue, which it is claimed to be? I wonder, as others are wondering, if this is not going to be a business in the future. Appendix 1 of the report does cover this, and the officer has laid this out. The chimney is still above 98 remaining fence, and it's not very appealing. Paragraph 20 by the officer mentions, I can't even read my own writing, mentions smoke and smells. He has not given any I've lost myself there. He has not given any comments as to how this can be alleviated. Page 9 refers to the policy LLP 25. This structure is most certainly not enhancing the area or the character of the area. I thank you for your attention, and I would suggest that you, in the old days, you used to go on visits to the properties. I'm just wondering if this could still not be the case. I thank you, Chair, for your guidance. Cheers.
Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Keynes. Obviously, as ward councillors, you and I benefit from, knowing, having been able to visit the property, visit the site, and see it. So, I have a few questions that to expand on what you've said, and to hopefully provide a bit more clarity for the committee that isn't covered in the report. So on your visit to the site, was it obvious to you that the chimney is clearly visible from the kitchen window of the objector? It's clearly visible from the exit into the garden, and it's clearly visible from every point within the garden.
Are you asking me the question?
I was asking you a
sorry.
question. Was that your observation
Yeah,
that it's clearly visible from the kitchen window
You can
of the
still,
objector?
yes, you can still see the chimney from the kitchen window. It's not as high as it was because it has been reduced, but it is from the kitchen window, it looks directly straight into the back of this building and the chimney.
Thank you. And if I may, another question. You also mentioned about the build quality and a lot of what you mentioned would probably fall under building regulations, which isn't a planning matter. However, as it's a structure that's already present, it does need to comply with LLP 25, which is about quality of design. One of the things, and it's actually almost visible to a degree in that left side photo there. In terms of the brickwork and the pointing, the mortar between the brick is sticking out. It's not, you know, as you would expect in a concave matter, in a concave fashion, aligns with the brick. So would you consider that as being well designed?
You're asking me that question again. I'm not a builder, but sorry? As a layperson, I would say it's very badly built, personally. It has not been finished very well. And it looks very slapdash to me from what is still left of the fence, which you cannot put up to hide it. It's untidy.
Thank you. Yeah, and obviously a lot of these can't come under building regs, but in terms of the layperson's visual look at it, the reason why I was asking that is to get an idea of the quality of the build, which is I believe a material matter for a building that's there. So thanks for that.
I've obviously not seen the other side of the building, so I'm not sure whether the brickwork is better than that. So I can't say anything about that.
Any further questions to the objector? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go up to the applicant or the applicant's representative. Anisora. So same rules apply to you, up to 5 minutes to speak. And members may wish to ask you questions. Just press the red button, that's it.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Anisha Arapo Podcast, and I speak on behalf of my husband, the applicant. And I want to clarify the facts, respond to the concern raised, and explain why these domestic structures fully deserve planning approval. I would like to start with the fact that there are no fence. So these claims are simply false, and there never have been. What we have is a small standard outdoor barbecue, the kind many families in Luton use. It is not industrial, not commercial, and absolutely not the kind of installation described in the objection. We use it occasionally, on average once a month for a couple of hours, and no more than any of our neighbors use their barbecues. Because smokes was mentioned, I want to say that Luton Smoke Control Officer inspected our property. They confirm verbally and in writing that the chimney is safe to use. The smoke produced is not a problem. The installation is fully acceptable as long as the correct fuel is used, which we always do. This is not my opinion. This is the council of the Smoke Control Authority. Furthermore, the Enforcement Building Control also visited our property. They examined the chimney and confirmed that it is not offensive in any way. It is acceptable exactly as it is. There are no breaches, no hazards, and no structural concerns. Again, all confirmed by official council staff. Also, the council planning officer came to my house to inspect the chimney personally. After reviewing it on site, they approved the application because they also found no harm, no policy breaches, and no impact on neighbors. So 3 independent authorities all reached the same conclusion. There's nothing wrong with the structure. The chimney is very small, very simple in design. And because there were some comments that it creates shadow, so this is the small, it's physically too small to create any meaningful shadow. This is not a daily source of smoke. It is like an occasional family barbecue. Another thing I want to mention, because we were told that the objectant was intimidated. Actually, and was claimed that emergency services were called for smoke and danger. This is completely untrue. The only time emergency services were involved when I had to call the police myself due to repeated harassment, unwanted visit to our properties, aggressive phone call, text. And this has nothing to do with chimney smoke, fire risk, or anything related to the planning officer. I want to make absolutely clear, we respect our neighbors, we respect the planning process, we have cooperated fully with every visit, every inspection, and every piece of advice. If we had been told at the start that permission was required, we would have applied immediately. But once we were informed, we followed every instruction, welcomed every inspection, and have been fully transparent throughout this entire process. I want also to mention about the pointing on the bricks. There's no pointing on the other side of the bricks because we never removed the old fence that was intact. Just to avoid any conflicts with the neighbor, we left the old fence and we built a new one next to it. The application is a small, safe, domestic household chimney that has been inspected by smoke control officers, building control enforcement officer, and the council planning officer, all of whom found no faults, no safety issues, and no harm. The allegations made in the objections are factually incorrect and entirely contradicted by the official authorities who attended the property. It's just a small family use installation, safe, compliant, unobtrusive, and used very rarely. I respectfully ask the committee to uphold the findings of your own officers and grant permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to the applicant? Yes, yeah, Councillor Steer.
Can I ask, did you seek any planning advice before you had the structure built?
No, we haven't because we were thinking it's not necessary. We
So is that a
checked
no?
online.
You didn't seek any planning advice before you had the structure built?
So we checked online, we did all the researches, and it says it needs to be between 2.5 meters, which we did, and respect of all the building, the planning requirements without necessarily being like without we needing to apply for a plan permission.
So you did some research and you
Yeah,
thought it was
of
permitted
course.
development?
So we checked online.
You did some research and you thought it was permitted development? Is that what you're saying?
So we were checking the requirements needed to apply for planning permission. And we were told because it's between under 2.5 meters, it's less than 50% of the garden. We didn't need actually to apply for the planning permission. And then because the council told us, they advised us to do so. So we just followed the council and everyone's advice.
Okay. Councillor Ajisola.
Thank you, Chair. You've mentioned that you respect your neighbors. I just want to clarify because it seems there's some trust issues between yourself and your neighbor. What do you think is probably responsible for that?
So we try to keep a positive relationship with all our neighbors, even with the neighbor that made the complaint. We invited her to our house. We told her, look, this is like a small barbecue. We just use it occasionally for family, birthdays, my children birthdays, very rare. Like I said, maybe once a month. Since January, we only use it twice or 3 times. We don't want to cause any like trouble to our neighbors. Our neighbors also, they use their barbecue. But I don't think, from what my neighbor told to me, that's not a problem that we have a barbecue. She just doesn't like the chimney, how it looks from her garden. So she hasn't had a problem with barbecue itself. It's just, I don't know, that chimney. But like I said, the enforcement team came, they inspected, and they said, look, I can't see anything offensive or anything wrong with the chimney. And also we have approval for our next door neighbor, which
Jakob?
Thank you, Chair. So, how often do you use this, the chimney barbecue? And then, how many people do you have round? And
So-
what kind of, events do you have there?
So normally, in average, I would say once a month, maybe rarely. We celebrate we have 2 children, their birthdays, and sometime if we have someone coming over, we actually don't even have the time to use it that much because we have 2 little children, full-time jobs, and we don't, like, it's obvious we won't use it more than once a month. So, and then for a couple of hours.
Okay. Guide me.
Thank you, Chair. Will you be burning will the oven be burning all the time, or do you put the fire out and there's a period when there's nothing happening, or will that fire be there all the time?
No, so like I said, if we use the barbecue for a couple of hours, we use the fuel that's being recommended by the Luton Smoke Control, and the fire is supervised. Obviously, we don't want anyone to be on fire, that's for sure. Once we finish with the barbecue, the fire will be no longer on. Yeah, so it's not our intention to cause danger to anyone. That's, yeah, makes sense.
Any further questions to the applicant? Yeah, Councillor Adesola.
Thank you, Chair. I've seen the previous picture. There was no chimney fan, or there was no
No,
nothing in like it's sealed on the top.
we never had a fan. There's never been a fan. It's just chimney, the bricks one. No fan at all.
So like how you ensure the smoke is going out, not getting circulated within the premises and causes more smoke to the neighbors?
So yeah, the architect that did the plan permission, he applied to the council for a fan to be installed. But when we have the council coming to our house, they said that's not necessary because for a small barbecue, they wouldn't recommend any fan. So it's like the same way you would use probably like any basic barbecue. I think the smoke just go vertically, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there is any smoke emitting. I mean, you can have a barbecue in your back garden, nobody complains. There's no smoke. It's used, right, but it's the fuel that's used. I don't think it's a problem this time.
Yeah, it's referenced in the report,
Yeah.
item number 11.
Yeah. Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, questions by members of the planning officer. Yeah, Francis,
planning officers.
the planning officer, yeah.
Did I hear you correctly that you said without the chimney flue, the single store extension would be permitted development?
No. So the paragraph was that if that property, let me go exactly there. So it was a detached house, the permit development limits and not require the planning permission. But no, it's a semi-detached house. So in this case, they need a planning permission.
Okay, and my second question is, there's been some discussion about the build quality, but we only know that because it's a retrospective planning application. So is that actually a planning issue that we can consider?
It's an interesting question, actually, because like you say, we don't often get to see that. It comes after we've granted permission. It is material, but I would say it's limited weight, really. Particularly when something's built in, people's back garden. You have sheds, outbuildings of various quality. I think the key question is, would we take enforcement action on the basis that, it looks a little bit untidy? Unfortunately, we've got a number of other priorities that we would be enforcing against. So, yeah, if push comes to shove, the question, we wouldn't be taking enforcement action because of the build quality.
Lee.
Thanks, Chair. My question's again to the officer in relation to paragraph 29. I mean, I think it should be acknowledged that obviously the applicant has engaged and done what they can to reduce the visual intrusiveness. However, I'd just like to I guess maybe question or challenge you on the claim that there is no that the limited scale, essentially that the visual intrusiveness of the chimney is no longer considered great enough for enforcement because as obviously mentioned earlier, it's visible from every part of the objector's garden. It's visible from their kitchen window. So what's the threshold really for that? Is it quite a subjective thing?
Yeah, through you, Chair. I think the answer is, you can see it. We're not saying you can't see it. It's there in the back garden and it can be seen from the neighbouring property. What we're saying is it's not harmful, although you can see it. So in planning, to be harmful, it would have to overshadow or be overbearing visually. And because of the limited height and its positioning, we don't consider that to be the case. As I say, we accept the you can see it. That would be the same with other outbuildings that would be built in people's back gardens. You can see them from various windows, but it's the harm that arises from that impact. And as officers, we don't feel that's visually harmful.
Sorry, Chair, just one more question. So again, the report mentions that it's a can't remember, a well-proportioned garden that the development is in, but did I hear you correctly that it's smaller than, with the built development, it's smaller than the minimum amount as stated in the Luton Local Plan Appendix?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, it's marginally smaller. Claudia, you've got the actual dimensions, haven't you? Which I'll let you speak to. But yeah, it's marginal. And what we've said is this is a structure in the garden. The garden is still usable. And what we've suggested is they don't enclose the structure, so it retains an open side. So effectively, it still forms part of the garden area. It's similar in size to other garden areas. And again, at officer level, we wouldn't consider refusing it on the basis of being marginally below the garden standards that we've got.
The remaining garden area after this building is 44.5 and the minimum in Luton is 45 square meters, so it's just below.
Okay, Clive, question?
Thank you, Chair. Wood burning is becoming an issue on health issues. This is to the planning officer. It's becoming a health issue having wood burning in your gardens, etc. Like we ban bonfires in gardens. This to me looks like a sort of a bonfire in the garden, which is burning wood. And are we exposing the neighbourhood to the products of combustion of burning wood, which is increasingly being shown to be harmful to the environment?
Yeah, through you, Chair. I mean, burning wood in the back garden is not something we could really control, either through, a chimney structure or a bonfire. It sits outside of the planning control. What we've done in this instance, because this overall structure does need planning permission, we've got advice from our environmental protection colleagues, and they've not objected. So we're relying on their expert guidance in this instance. I think we've put an informative, a suggested informative that they use smoke-free fuel, which the applicant has agreed to. And as far as we can control from a local planning authority perspective, we think that's sufficient.
Okay, David, you had a question? No? Any further questions? Yeah, Francis.
Just that you touched on the front of it being open to make it have a more of an open vista and feel. Could we put that as a planning condition?
Yes, that's one of the conditions. So they have enough garden.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that then. Any further questions? No comments. Any comments? There being no comments, then we go on the recommendation. And what I've seen of the application, anyway, the impact of development is minimal. No overshadowing or loss of light. Okay. There being no further no comments, I'll go straight to the resolution, and the actual recommendation is to approve.
Seconded, Chair.
Angela, it's over to you now.
For.
Against.
Councillor Franks.
Again.
Councillor Hanif.
For.
Councillor Alia Khan.
For.
Councillor Mead.
Against.
Councillor Raja.
For.
Councillor Steer.
Leave the room then. Right. Apologies for that.
Councillor Steer.
4.
And Councillor Taylor.
4. Okay, that's carried. So planning permission has been granted. Okay, thank you very much. Subject to the additional conditions. Okay. Go to the next item. Page 18, 4951 Polygon Street.
Okay.
Yeah, Collington Street. You can go. You can go now. Yeah, we're not keeping you here.
Thank you.
And Terry, that applies to you as well. Go and answer the phone outside. Answer your phone outside. Okay, right.
Except for speakers.
Yeah. Right, Robert. Right. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to run through my slides quickly before reading the statement and give a couple of points whilst reading through these, while looking through them. So a bit of a delay. Site locations in the northwest corner of the town centre on Collington Street. I can speak up a bit, sure. Apologies. That's a view of the site aerial view. Looking at some of the neighbouring buildings. We've got Hamilton House in the bottom of the picture. And then this would be a second view there showing the existing building, which has since been demolished under prior approval, which we'll touch on. It's the site location plan. Policy context showing that it's in a key employment area A, which is just on the south side of Collington Street, but not on the north side. Just a view of the existing context before the building was demolished on the left-hand side. And looking the other direction again, the building's still in place before it was demolished. And looking at some of the context, including the housing, which is further down the street. It's just a view of the rear of the site, again showing the buildings that were on the site before they were removed. And the principal elevations of the proposed. This is a ground floor plan and the first floor plan showing access from the street on the top of the page, access to the rear amenity space at the back, south of the bottom of the page, and access to the lift, which takes you to all floors, along with the fire escape stair. Section through the site showing the levels from front to back. Obviously, it's higher at the back, so there is a bit of a difference between the level at the front in terms of daylighting and daylighting at the back. And in the context of the existing buildings on the north side of the building, on the north side of the street, beg your pardon. And again, street scene elevations, looking at the principal elevation on the south side and the view from the car park to the west elevation. Again, the agent and the applicant has prepared some visuals of the proposed, so I'll just show you these quickly. So they're useful to see the rear from an aerial perspective. And the front again from further down Collington Street, looking towards the west. And finally a view looking at the back again. And some information about the proposal. Thank you, Chair. So members of the committee, I present the planning application for 49 to 51 Collington Street, and I will now provide a summary of the key points from the report. This will include an outline of the proposal, policy context, planning history, key material considerations, and the recommendation. The application seeks full planning permission for the construction of a 6-storey residential building comprising 14 flats, 1 2-bedroom, 4 1-bedroom units and 10 2-bedroom units. The scheme includes associated amenity space and ancillary facilities. The application site is within Luton Town Centre, benefiting from sustainable transport links, proximity to services and employment opportunities. Prior approval was granted in 2024 for the full demolition of the existing 2-storey former hat factory and workshop building, thereby confirming that the site could be cleared without full planning permission. The site has since remained a cleared and therefore brownfield site. It's relevant to note that the site is within an area that has seen other recent residential developments granted planning permission, which is reflective of an ongoing trend towards residential uses in the area. This has also been a consideration in assessing the character of the area and its suitability for new residential development. The proposal must be considered in light of the Luton Local Plan and the National Planning Policy Framework. The most relevant policies are LLP1, presumption in favour of sustainable development, supporting housing development in locations where this can be demonstrated to be sustainable. Policy LLP14, protection of a Category A employment area, resisting non-B uses, new developments that result in the loss of employment land. LLP 25, high quality design standards for new developments, and the NPPF, which supports sustainable housing development, particularly where there's a shortfall in housing land supply. Policy LLP 14 prioritizes the protection of Category A employment areas. This means that development proposals which would result in the loss of employment floor space are generally resisted. In this case, the proposal involves the loss of employment land for residential purposes, which would be contrary to the intention of policy LLP 14. However, this does not automatically suggest refusal, in that the policy conflict must be balanced against other material considerations and the broader planning context. Notwithstanding the policy conflicts of LLP 14, there are several important material considerations that justify residential development in this case. Housing need, there's a significant demand for housing in Luton, and the town is currently operating with a housing land supply deficit. This is a critical consideration when assessing planning applications, and the tilted balance in an NPPF applies. The tilted balance means that unless the adverse impacts significantly outweigh the benefits, planning permission should be granted. Site context. The site is within Luton Town Centre, a highly sustainable location for residential development with excellent access to public transport, services and amenities. Residential use in this location is supported by national and local planning policies, which promote higher density development in accessible urban areas. Shift in market demand. The surrounding area has increasingly evolved towards residential development, as evidenced by the approval of nearby schemes. The development of a modern B-class employment floor space in this specific location is limited, and the trend towards residential development is relevant when considering the site's future use. The tilted balance. The application must also be assessed in light of the NPPF's presumption in favour of sustainable development, as Luton does not currently have a 5-year supply of deliverable housing land, and the tilted balance applies, meaning the planning system is predisposed to favour housing delivery unless significant harm can be demonstrated. The benefits of providing new homes in this sustainable location may be considered to outweigh the harm from the loss of the employment land. Design and amenity considerations. The design of the proposed building has been assessed, and the scheme is considered to be appropriate in scale, massing, and appearance for its urban context. The proposed building would not result in significant harm to the amenity of surrounding properties in terms of overlooking, overshadowing, or loss of light. The future residents of the scheme will benefit from good internal living standards, with the flats designed to meet the national space standards. The scheme also provides adequate amenity space for future occupiers. The transport and access arrangements have been reviewed. The site benefits from excellent transport links and is within walking distance of Luton Town Centre. The development provides an acceptable level of on-site parking. It doesn't provide any parking, it's a mistake, sorry, and is expected to have no significant impact on traffic flow or congestion, since there is no parking. Flood risk and drainage. It's important to note that we are still awaiting information from the applicant regarding the response to the objection raised by the lead local flood authority at consultation stage. This objection concerns flood risk and drainage arrangements of the site. However, the applicant is actively working with both the LFA and Thames Water to address the concerns raised. It is anticipated that the objections can be resolved in due course, and the applicant is committed to providing the necessary information and mitigation measures to satisfy the requirements. We can provide an update to members once further details have been received from the applicant, ensuring that all outstanding issues are fully addressed before any decision is issued. Consultation has been undertaken in accordance with statutory requirements, and the relevant statutory and non-statutory consultees have had the opportunity to comment on the proposal. The lead local flood authority raised an objection to consultation stage, and as mentioned earlier, we are awaiting further information to address this. There have been no other objections from statutory consultees or members of the public that would alter the assessment overall. To conclude, members, the proposal presents some conflict with policy LLP 14 due to loss of employment land, which is a material consideration. However, there are several key material considerations, including the need for housing and the sustainable location of the site that support the residential use in this case. The tilted balance in the NPPF means that the benefits of housing delivery in this location may be considered to be to sufficiently outweigh the harm from the loss of employment land. The design of the development is acceptable in terms of amenity, transport, and environmental impact, and awaited additional information on drainage is anticipated to allow the matter to be resolved satisfactorily. To conclude, given all these factors, it is recommended that the Planning Permission is granted subject to conditions and subject to the receipt of further information regarding the Flood Authority's concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions? Yeah, David Franks. Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking at paragraph 40, which says ground floor of the proposed development is below ground level to the rear. I note that of the ground floor plans show a bedroom and living rooms at the rear of the building, which are presumably below ground level. I just wondered if we could have a bit more information about how much below ground level and how on earth these rooms are expected to receive daylight.
Thank you, Councillor. So the visual on the screen at the moment shows the level difference between the front and the back of the site. They have endeavoured to create a buffer zone and provided a daylight assessment that demonstrates that lighting should be acceptable given the amount of fenestration for all units, which we've reviewed and accepted.
So we're being asked to approve a basement flat on what you're calling the first floor.
Yeah. I think it's not.
One second, I'm just finding the
It's not
section.
necessarily underground, it's at a lower level.
So if we look at this section, it's perhaps clearer. There is a step to the back. The original workshop building presumably was built into that step in the levels. They've set the building back from there as far as they could, allowing for the site, which is a very narrow, deep site. And they have essentially a flat that's open to the amenity space. I did question the lighting levels for this particular flat, and we did look at the lighting levels and they were acceptable.
Right, so it's acceptable, but
yeah, it's not a basement. It's a ground floor flat. It's just that the level difference to the rear of the site. Makes.
Excuse me, it's a ground floor flat below ground level.
It's not below ground level
quite.
at
No,
the front, but to the rear it does step below the ground level of the rear of the site, but the ground level around the flat is cut back so that it's not below ground. It's not basement, it has windows.
Yeah, but page 38, the picture at the bottom, I'm looking at.
I really think we could have done with a much more clear, what's the word I'm looking for? A cross section of the site so that we could really understand the levels.
You were next then, Francis.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to check, I understood something you mentioned in relation to the objection raised by the local flood authority. So you mentioned you're confident that that's going to be resolved possibly with the implementation of suitable conditions. I couldn't see anything about what happens if that objection isn't resolved. So is there going to be a condition in place that this approval will be subject to that objection being resolved?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So what we're asking for this evening is subject to satisfactorily resolving the objection that we've currently got from the Lead Local Flood Authority. I mean, we sometimes bring applications to committee where there is an objection still outstanding, but only where we think it can be resolved, and that's the case with this. I think it's just a case of providing further information, and it should be resolved. So the resolution before you would be subject to the satisfactory resolve of that issue.
I could just add, Clive, we're waiting for Thames Water to respond, and they are taking their time. That's part of the reason that there's a delay in information.
Stephen, you want to come?
No, I just asked, does that mean if the objection isn't dealt with, that you want authority to refuse or it comes back?
Yes, if it's not satisfactorily resolved, if we get delegated authority to refuse the application, yeah.
Yeah, just back on this ground floor flat. It's what I'd call a semi-basement, where part of it's on the ground floor and part of it is below ground floor. And I think, with all due respect, the report could have been a bit clearer on that. And I mean, Councillor Franks has picked it up. I don't think it's particularly, if the officers are satisfied with level, the light that is going to be at the rear of the property, then okay. But I really think it could have been a bit clearer. That is honestly what I'd call a semi-basement flat.
Thank you, Chair. In the report, it mentions that the entry into the development and to get into the stairs and to the lift is quite a tight turn, a left-right turn. Are we satisfied that a wheelchair user will be able to manoeuvre that left-right turn and get into the lift?
It is something that I flagged up, and the corridor width is 1.5 meters, which is deemed to be adequate for a wheelchair user to be able to turn through that corridor. Yeah, that's right. I don't think there's a regulation or maybe there's alternative arrangements.
Am I right in thinking that building regulations would cover this? Subject to building regulations?
We did mention complying with space standards for wheelchair users for accessibility, and it has been looked at. We looked at the plans. I'm satisfied that they're acceptable. They've got a lift to each floor. The corridor widths are sufficient. So we can pick that up again with them and make sure it's shown on the drawings and part of the conditions that they should comply. We can add a condition.
Yeah, because it's a new builder should comply with current disability discrimination and building regulations as well. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Chair, mine's just a clarifying comment. I think you mentioned that the delegated authority to reject if the condition isn't, if the objection isn't resolved, is covered in the recommendation, but it isn't. So I think that would need to be added.
Any further questions? Yeah, Councillor Ambler.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just, I would like to get some clarification on the point number 65. You had mentioned about affordable housing contribution. Is it the one applicant, they agreed to pay 274,000? Just wanted to just clarification. Is the figure of the education and other figure? So there, if the planning go ahead, the developer will contribute the amount?
So at present, the applicant provided a market viability assessment, which demonstrated that they could not provide any contributions. We are going to allow for a review mechanism of that at marketing stage. And if it becomes apparent that they can, in fact, provide contributions, then I believe that's when we will pick that back up again. But at this stage, not at the moment.
It's in the recommendation, recommendation 3.
They agreed to contribute this amount, or do you think they will dispute, or they're trying to negotiate the price?
I guess that's going to be a matter for the review. Once it becomes a marketable asset, then they'll reassess the ability for the applicant to be able to provide contributions.
But just to be clear, we are getting the highways contribution of 4,900 up front. It's the affordable housing, isn't it, that we're asking for the viability review.
Okay,
So,
any further questions? Yeah, no further questions? And any comments? No comments, then we'll move to a recommendation. The recommendation is to approve. I'll move approval subject to the conditions and the additional condition that we put on there.
Seconded, Chair.
Councillor Ajisola.
4.
Councillor Ambia.
4.
Councillor Bridgen.
4.
Councillor Farouk.
4.
Councillor Franks.
Again.
Councillor Hanif.
4.
Councillor Alia Khan.
4.
Councillor Mead.
4.
Councillor Raja.
4.
Councillor Steer.
4.
And Councillor Taylor.
4. That's carried. Planning permission has been granted subject to the conditions. Okay, I think that's it tonight. Thank you very much for your attendance.